Now our second tutorial for an illusion is a little more complex. You're going to see these are three images that I've combined together, and what we're going to do is have this road lead into the cell phone with the person walking. We're going to make our own shadow from his silhouette and then blend the edges in here with a mask and a gradient. So let me change my view to simply be, switch back into Photoshop. All right, let me change my view so that I'm just going to do one single view and consolidate the tabs. So this is what our end project is going to be. So I have this hand holding the cell phone. I wanted the background to be a different scene so that what's in front really stands out as an illusion of going into this space. I've made a gradient in the mask across the bottom here, and I'm going to go through the layers so you can see what each layer looks like and how we're going to make each of these adjustments. So let me just toggle these off first. All right, so first to begin with, I have the background, which is the snowy scene. Then I added in this hand. Let me disable the mask so you can see the whole part. It was really a photo of this background, but I wanted it to be very different, so I masked out that. Background's masked out is now a snowy scene, a hand in front. Adding in this fall scene, the road going into the cell phone, adding in a figure, and then adding in a shadow underneath him. So let's start from the beginning. I'm going to close this one out. All right, so you're starting with your cell phone picture. And I'm going to go find the snowy scene. Actually, I didn't open it. Pause. So I'm going to go find this snowy scene. I'm going to select it and drop it in here. So I'm going to change the size and that's what fills the entire picture. And I might make an adjustment on that later on as well. Okay, let's turn off that layer. We're going to go into this background layer. I'm just going to unlock that. And I want to select the outside. Now there's a great new tool, which is our object selection tool. And we have, of course, our quick selection. For the sake of time, I'm just going to do my quick selection, pull out these edges. Now you could refine these edges and make this a little softer to make sure things show up and look a little realistic and you don't have such a sharp edge. Pop out these fingers. Great. So I can go up here to the selected mask and see what my selection looks like. If I find I have missed some things, I can simply go in, paint over those, pick those up, so you can zoom in and see what I'm doing. So I have my Refine Edge brush tool, or I simply have the brush tool if I want to select it myself and paint that part in. All right, so I have a perfect mask there. A couple edges here, so let's go ahead and make this adjustment. All right, now I'm going to smooth this out just a little bit, feather it. All right, so now I have my selection of just the hand, and I've selected all of the background. The hand is not selected. I'm going to go back up to my snowy scene, and I'm going to turn this into a layer mask. Do a clipping mask and show that on there. So you can also do a clipping mask and pare that down. I'm just doing a quick layer mask here. I'm now going to put my image inside the cell phone. So again, I need to go find the landscape that I want to use. Select that, paste that in, change my size. Now on this one, I'm not going to be too worried about the exact dimensions of this top image. I can adjust that in just a minute. Again, close that top layer, go into the cell phone, find the area that I would like to put the street in, select that area out. If I want to refine that edge on my selected mask, go back up to the street fall scene, turn that into a layer mask. Now in here, I'm going to unlink these for just a moment. And I'm going to transform the size of this. So now I can decide, whoops, let's make sure I'm on the image. There we go. Now I can decide how big I want this image to be in here. So I want something maybe about this side going in there, and then I'm going to have the image on the outside showing more. So let's go back to our mask. I'm not going to attach these just yet, but I do want this entire bottom area to show. So I'm just going to draw this area here. Now remember, we're on a layer mask and I'm only using black and white. So since I've selected this area and I can see the part that shows is the white area, another trick is simply to go up here to edit, go to fill, change this to white, and it will drop in whatever is showing in that image. So now I have a little bit of this road showing. That looks pretty good. It's a very small space and I really want it to stretch out here, but I need the inside to fit inside the phone. I want the road to fit inside the cell phone, so I can't stretch the entire image out. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to select inside here of just the bottom part. So this is all I actually have showing left from the original photo. If I disable the layer mask, you're going to see for a second, there's not much left in the image that I was sourcing. So I'm going to stick with what I have. But instead, I'm going to simply transform this. And I'm going to do that with a distort. This will allow me to move it in any way that I want without really manipulating the image to a point where it's not going to work for me. So I can pull these two edges. As I zoom in, you're going to see you want to make sure that center stays in line. And then I can also stretch it out if I need to do that. So I'm going to keep pulling these areas out and distort it, and you're going to see that's a pretty open area. Make sure I'm on the image actually when I do this. There we go. And now as I stretch it out, it's going to stretch out my actual image. I'm going to zoom in, make sure that center looks good. It does. Enter. I can try that as many times as I need to. So you're going to see it's just this little area. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this out on the left and stretch it out on the right. And as long as I'm stretching it evenly, the center is going to stay aligned. So you can see the bottom is still parallel. I can stretch the corners as far as I need to, but the center part of the road does need to stay aligned. So if I stretch the left side down, I need to pull the right side down equally so that it stays parallel and my middle section stays in line. Don't worry about the outside edges. We're going to blend those in just a minute. You just want to make sure whatever is connecting to the center is in line. All right, deselect. Pretty great. Now you're going to see these edges are very sharp and this edge is very sharp. So instead of stretching this even further and distorting this more, instead I'm going to make this fade so one scene blends into another. In the end, I might decide to crop my photo a little smaller, so this extra arm piece down here, I don't really need that. I really want just the cell phone and this road stretching out. I can also do a content fill where I select part of this and let the computer fill in the rest of it, and Photoshop will take care of that for you. I'm going to try a couple different things. So I have this mask. Let's link those back up. And I want what I have in here to stay exactly as it is. So I also want to be able to change this into a gradient. So let's take this layer mask and apply it to our image. And now that's completely attached. I can then go again. And this time I'm going to use my gradient tool. I'm on the layer mask, so I have black and white. And I want it to fade, so I can simply fade it out like that. And I can decide how long I want that fade to be. I always start exactly at the edge so that that edge completely disappears. And if I like that, which I do, Again, I can simply apply it and it's attached to the image, and I can do the other sides. Unfortunately, you can't do multiple gradients within the same mask, which is why I'm applying the mask every single time. I could also switch over to the brush. I could lower my opacity, take a nice large brush, there we go. I can make a really large brush. I can make sure the edge is soft, and I could gently soften this up manually if I wanted to. I'm going to go back into here because I want a really smooth transition. I'm going to go back into the gradient tool, and I'm simply going to blend these edges in. So decide which angle you want that to be. Be careful that you don't get the top of this in there. So maybe in this case, it is going to be best for you to work with the brush. This is the part where you really play around with it and see what works for you. So I can gently fade this out. Again, I could go back and distort this if I need to. I can just soften some of these rough edges. So yeah, I'm actually liking the brush a lot more. It lets me control what's happening here. So I like that a lot more. Okay, one last time, I'm going to apply the layer mask to this, and I'm going to go ahead, take some of this bottom area, distort it one more time, let this corner fade out just a little bit more on the left, make sure it's parallel, pull to the right. I like that fade a lot. If you do find something's happening here, you can always pull this up or pull this corner in to realign those edges. There we go. Anytime you want to add another layer mask, soften edges, blur things, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to fix this one little part by going ahead and flipping this. I'm going to make this an 8x10. Adjust within the frame. Get rid of some of that extra on the arm down there that I really don't need. There we go. And you might decide it's not a great ratio for you. You want something smaller. Really up to you what you want to do with this. Okay. Last part I'm going to add in is I'm going to go ahead and add in our man standing, and I'm going to have him walking down the road. So again, I'm going to my quick selection tool, and then grab him. Now it's really important that you do have a really good selection on especially figures. So I'm going to make a quick selection here. I'm going to go in, see how these edges look. If I need to perfect some areas, I'm going to take the refine edge. This is what's going to make it believable, so I would take the time to kind of sweep over your edges, see how those things are. I'm going to smooth it just a little bit so I get a really nice selection. Feather ever so slightly. He will be very small, but I still want him to look really good. All right, let's copy that out. And let's drop them in. Decide how large you want your figure to be. Place them in the scene.